All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share a part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Through the gifts of technology, we also gather virtually to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Welcome to all those who are joining us in this way today. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls, arise.
Good morning. I'm David Jackel, a member of All Souls. I echo now the welcome sentiment in the video, both for those here and those watching online. When we say welcome here at All Souls UU Church, we welcome you. You with all the identities you hold in your fullness as a person are welcome here. We hope that you will bring your whole self to this time together. We welcome those who have long been a part of our community and those here for the first time. Please extend a welcome through conversations with new faces after the service. It may be the beginning of a long, warm relationship. If you're a visitor or new to All Souls, we invite you to join us as our guests after the service for our final Yule Bach, our final holiday celebration. Following the service, please go to the welcome table in the middle of the lobby, and they will guide you to our celebration. Today, there will be a meal sponsored by our Hunger Outreach team, which regularly feeds the houseless and food insecure. Donations to support this valuable work is welcome. And now Andrea and Kendall will recognize Leandra's 5 years of service here at All Souls.
Good morning again. During this NFL playoff season, much is said about teamwork and how important that is to the success of those who are trying to achieve a particular standing in the world of football. This is also true of the world of the institutional church. And today we want to recognize a crucial team member who allows the rest of the team to be better than we otherwise would be. 5 years ago, we were fortunate to have a low draft number and be able to add Leandra Salazar-Slaughter to our team. She coordinates the work of our office and the work of many volunteers. She makes sure that all the money and all the bills get into the hands of our bookkeeper. She publishes The Flame, our monthly newsletter, and sends out mailings for us. She tracks our office supplies and equipment, and she has become a leader in the National Unitarian Universalist Administrators Association. which is very cool. She also knows the sweetest 5 words that any administrator can say to a beleaguered leader, and she deploys them often. Do you know what they are? I'll take care of it. Yes.
Yes.
She is often invisible, and I'm told that she likes it that way. But today we want to acknowledge how much we owe her and appreciate her 5 years of teamwork. And I'm told that Sue has a presentation from the board.
Actually, hi, I'm Andrea. I'm representing the board today. And we do have a certificate recognizing her 5 years, and on it, it does appreciate Leandra for her formidable skills, her flexible attitude, and being just plain fun to be around. And along with our certificate, we have a gift certificate to Chewy's, which I have heard is her favorite restaurant. So on behalf of the board and the congregation, thank you.
Thank you.
In these days, separated into before and after, we learn to live in the in-between, between ways of being and knowing, held in the waiting of winter, where we know all plans and predictions are partial, and where we learn to pivot as a spiritual practice. For us, gathering like this, for this hour, it is a way to mark time, to know ourselves here, now, straddling worlds, maybe for our whole lives. Here we revel in curiosity and let the learning wash over us. Here we refuse to be seduced by certainty. Here we praise the mystery. Here we give thanks for all that remains hidden. In this time, all that grows between the earth and behind the stars, beyond our view, beyond our lifetime, let us know ourselves as sowers of seeds, tenders of possibility, called to presence and partnership. Beyond our imaginations, we remember our promise to stay in relationship, to repair what has been broken, to do more than just survive, to insist on joy, and to lead in love. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, I'm Charlotte, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
And if you will rise as you are able and recite with me our covenant. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Fills
That is the sound I am looking for. So I would like to ask all the kids and or the young at heart, as the Spirit moves you, to come forward for the time for all ages. No, seriously. Come on. I got some questions and some pictures for you. It's nice to see you all here today. So we were going to talk about doors today. Doors. Who here knows the book The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Yes? Okay, I have some questions for you. Can one of you kids tell me how Lucy Pevensey discovered Narnia? Yes. Through a magic wardrobe, exactly. She looks for the perfect place to hide, and she opens the door to a big wardrobe. And so she goes through that door and into the back of the wardrobe, right? And suddenly she's in a whole other world. It's a magical world with witches and fauns and talking beavers. Wouldn't it be cool if there were a magical world behind every door? When Lucy opened the door to Narnia, it didn't look like anything special. It's just a boring door to a wardrobe full of boring clothes and coats. But across its threshold was magic. Lucy already had a foot in Narnia before she quite realized what was happening. And you know, many of the thresholds in our lives are like this. We don't know what we're crossing into when we go into this other world until we're already halfway there. The door of a church takes us down a pathway of growth that we might never have expected. The door of the doctor's office suddenly opens into a hard diagnosis. A restaurant door opens into a first date and echoes forward into the relationship of a lifetime. The door to a library or a gym or a dance studio introduces you to a life's passion you might not have otherwise discovered. And you know, we have a few pictures of different doors, and I'm thinking maybe you could call out ideas of what might be behind some of these doors. What do you think might be behind that door? Just call it out. A factory. What else? What do you think? What's behind that door? A gym? Maybe a gym, yeah. A bunch of boxes, maybe like super big boxes. What's the next door? Well, whoa, what's behind those doors? Yeah? Call it out. Oh, say it again? Someplace fun. What else? You think? A theater. I think, yeah. What else? Games with, say what? Techno sounds? Oh, okay, yes. Huh? Or it could be a gym. Sometimes theaters are made over into gyms. Okay, let's see the next door. Oh, what's that? Yeah. Attic door. But what's up there? What could be up there? Boxes. More boxes. What might be in the boxes? Junk. Attic stuff. Totally. Attic stuff. Yeah. A bunch of, whoa, yeah, I have to turn the lights on. Let's look at the next one, though. Next door. What's on the next door? Oh, What's behind that door, do you think? Huh? It's a mouse door. What's behind it? On one side, what's the a what? A kitchen? Whoa. Or a kitchen. Which? It could be a kitchen or it could be a kitten. It's different. Yeah. A what? Could be a cage. Sometimes you have to watch out what's on the other side of the door. And there's another door we'll look at. What do you think? Elevator door. What happens when you open it? What's behind it? Somewhere. You never know. A room. Indeed. And I think there's one more door. Oh, there might. An airplane that could take you to interesting places. And is there one more? Not sure. Yes. Oh. School. A school door. School and where you can learn lots of interesting things and open whole new worlds. And now there is one more door. Tell me. Huh? The church, All Souls, where you are learning exciting things, wonderful, meaningful things, including, I think, in a few minutes, right? So truly, our own door is a great threshold. So our own door in our own homes, no matter how familiar the worlds within and without may be, given our lives a reality of constant change. Every day we open the same old door again, only to step out into a world that is new since the day before. And that is how, in this new world behind every door, we await the discovery, if we can only encounter it as such, as a new discovery. Thank you. Thank you for helping with our door story.
And now please join me as we sing our children to their classes.
Good morning. My name is Anna. I'm a member of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. All Souls feeds my heart. The sermons, efforts from the Hunger Outreach Team, volunteers at Carver, collections for harvesters, our Sweats for Vets program, fellow members offering classes on yoga, computers, any topic you know, helping each other grow. Our Advocates program looking out for marginalized individuals in our congregation, and meeting new members while serving as a greeter or at the welcome table. All Souls feeds my mind. Sermons, enrichment classes by Reverend Kendall and members of the congregation, and serving on the board. And All Souls feeds my soul. Sermons, dinner for 8, the camaraderie, middle-age mayhem and other social events, serving on the arts committee, serving on the 8th Principles team, and rethinking the Social Justice Council. What do you appreciate about All Souls that you can't get anywhere else? How does All Souls feed your heart and your mind and your soul? Give today to support the dynamic energy you receive while engaging in worship, social, and civic roles through the church, as well as enrichment opportunities that you get simply by being here. The offering dedicated to the general budget will now be given and gratefully received. Join me in the dedication of our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Pack nothing. Bring only your determination to serve and your willingness to be free. Don't wait for the bread to rise. Take nourishment for the journey, but eat standing. Be ready to move at a moment's notice.
Do not hesitate to leave your old ways behind. Fear, silence, submission. Do not take time to explain to the neighbors. Tell only a few trusted friends and neighbors.
Then begin quickly before you have time to sink back into the old slavery. Set out in the dark. I will send fire to warm and encourage you.
I will be with you in the fire. I will be with you in the cloud. You will learn to eat new food and find refuge in new places. I will give you dreams in the desert to guide you safely home to that place you have not seen.
The stories you tell one another around your fires in the dark will make you strong and wise.
Outsiders will attack you. Some will follow you, and at times you will be weary and turn on each other from fear, fatigue, and blind forgetfulness. You have been preparing for this for hundreds of years.
I am sending you into the wilderness to make a way and to learn my ways more deeply. Those who fight you will teach you. Those who fear you will strengthen you. Those who follow you may forget you.
Only be faithful. This alone matters. Some of you will die in the desert, for the way is longer than anyone imagined. Some of you will give birth. Some of you will join other tribes along the way, and some will simply stop and create new families in a welcoming oasis.
Some of you will be so changed by weathers and wanderings that even your closest friends will have to learn your features as though for the first time. Some of you will not change at all. Sing songs as you go and hold close together.
You may at times grow confused and lose your way.
Continue to call each other by the names I've given you to help remember who you are. You will get where you are going by remembering who you are.
Tell your children lest they forget and fall into danger. Remind them, even though they were not born in freedom, but under a bondage they no longer remember, which is still to them, if unseen.
So long ago you fell into slavery, slipped into it unaware, out of hunger and need. Do not let your children sleep through the journey's hardship. Keep them awake and walking on their own feet so that you both remain strong and on course.
So you will only be the first of many waves of deliverance on these desert seas. Do not go back. I am with you now, and I am waiting for you.
Does anyone here remember the stand-up comedian Stephen Wright? Yeah, I think he was popular in the mid-'80s. Wikipedia describes him as characterized by a distinctly lethargic voice with a slow, deadpan delivery of ironic, philosophical, and sometimes nonsensical jokes. It was mostly an acquired taste, I think. But my husband and I laughed out loud at some of his one-liners. And one of our favorite ones was this: "Whenever I think of the past, it just brings back so many memories." Thank you. This time of year is a time of thinking of the past and looking forward to the future. Besides the calendar year coming to an end, the holidays especially are a time of nostalgia, with all the familiar sights and sounds and smells and the food and rituals, bringing back memories of time spent with family and friends. We don't all have those memories, and when we do, they're not always good memories, but they're often particularly intense during the December holidays. When the world is the way our world is today, a world of rapid change, confusion, loss, maybe even dread, a common reaction is to look back with longing toward what we remember as simpler times, especially collectively with our family or friends of our own generation. That nostalgia can be a powerful attraction, has certainly not been lost on the marketing folks. It's become big business. 60s band reunion tours, television shows set in times of living memory for some of us, mid-century furniture and fashion, retro everything. Well, fun or comforting, nostalgia is often bittersweet. We're remembering the good times of the past, but there's also a sadness that is the absolute knowing that we can never get them back. Ironically, the actual concept of nostalgia and the word are fairly recent. And nostalgia began in quite a different way than with the warm, fuzzy sense we usually associate it with. It started by being designated as a life-threatening disease. In the late 1600s, a medical student, Johannes Hover, became intrigued by reports of a strange disease infecting Swiss mercenaries stationed in the Alps. Far from their homes, longing for home-cooked meals, their families, normal lives, they suffered from what was described as an intense, inconsolable form of homesickness. I don't know, that doesn't seem strange to me. But it was said that for lack of an effective treatment, many died. Hover wrote his dissertation on this syndrome and named it for the Greek words nostos, homecoming, and algos, sorrow or despair. Furthermore, he concluded that the only life-saving treatment was to send the patient home. The military concluded there must be more practical solutions. Historical commentaries cite the example of a Russian general marching his army to Germany in 1733, telling his troops that the first one to come down with the nostalgia virus would be buried alive. This treatment proved remarkably effective. Other solutions over the years that they've tried were leeches, purging the stomach, and something we don't really need to know anything about, described as warm hypnotic emulsions. Still, on numerous soldiers' death certificates, all the way through the Civil War and into the late 19th century, the cause of death was listed as nostalgia. What a temptation it can be to believe in yesterday, when all our troubles seemed so far away, and when it looks as though now, indeed, they're here to stay. A common and powerful form of nostalgia depends on what American historian Christopher Latch called the disparagement of the present. Feeling out of control and even repulsed by modern life, feeling anxious about the future. We look to the past where the world was still in order, where everyone knew their place and was satisfied with it, where school children still walked barefoot in the snow uphill to school, where those schools still taught cursive, where no one used those words in polite company. You can probably fill in the blank with the most cringeworthy such grievance you frequently hear, or your own favorite reminiscence to bestow on younger people. And this sort of nostalgia, it's hard to resist. It so often evokes a sense of collective identity, community, shared purpose, ideals and values held in common, all of which we'd like to do, we'd hope to do as a nation, as a denomination, as a congregation, creating beloved community. But to invoke it as an idealized past, to replace a disturbing present and forestall an imagined anxiety-producing future in the name of building community is dangerous. Let me cite a most obvious example. Make America Great Again. In 2016, half of respondents in the annual American Values Survey agreed that the country's best days were behind us. 60% of Americans believed that their children would be worse off than they were. Unsurprisingly, these sentiments were far greater among white Americans than Black, Latinx, and other minorities. Russian-American artist and cultural theorist Svetlana Boym refers to this as restorative nostalgia. It seeks to restore life the way we were. It thinks of itself not as nostalgia, but as truth and tradition. And she believes it always contains an element of conspiracy theory. Someone, some group is plotting to change life as we've always known and loved it for their own nefarious ends, and it's up to the good guys to stop them and restore what was good and true. I really chose the low-hanging fruit in using the example on the political right of Make America Great Again, I admit it. But consider, as we think about this, that restorative nostalgia operates on the political, cultural, and religious left as well. It's just a human thing. I'm thinking about how truth and tradition, this is the way we've always done it. Reactions also arise among liberals around how we address issues of free speech, policing, institutional racism, gender fluidity, the Constitution, language, even guns. That's actual gun control versus the so-called common sense approach, to be clear. But there are at least two problems. First, our memories are not faithful. We too often idealize the past, forgetting the bad parts, distorting even our own limited perspectives. And when we invoke an idealized past in the name of the collective, the American dream, for example, who's telling these stories? Who's being erased? Nostalgia for a past greatness dismisses too many voices, ignores too many experiences, fails to acknowledge or doesn't even know huge parts of the story. There's a movement currently gaining a lot of attention on what's called the New Right. Tucker Carlson likes to promote it on Fox News, so I hear. It claims that feminism was not a step forward in history and that masculine stereotypes that we currently associate with toxic masculinity are actually healthy for society and beneficial to, wait for it, women. They claim that feminism has not worked for women who really want to be dependent on and protected by men, so the restoration of so-called traditional gender values, that is white middle-class 1950s gender roles, is the solution. This movement features women who ostensibly used to be liberal but now are quitting their jobs, marrying young, having lots of children with their husbands heading the family. Now, lest you think that this is presented as just another valid life choice, which it certainly is, that's not what this restorative movement is fundamentally about. Its point is rather that all this choice we've been offered makes our lives worse. True liberation is not having to choose like it used to be. It's as though all the lessons of the past have been forgotten, as though Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique never awakened a generation. People who didn't live through it, whose parents didn't live through it, are being offered a vision of life as it never existed. Such is the power and the danger of restorative nostalgia. The past can't be recreated, and neither must it be forgotten. Black lesbian womanist American writer Audre Lorde wrote, "The past is teeming with lost reality, some of which may be helpful in working towards a present that can breed futures." We can connect to past generations with a reflective nostalgia where we find elements of value that can be tweaked, updated, customized, adapted, and used to cope with the turmoil and the conflict created by change, in the expectation that our descendants will learn valuable lessons about how we shaped our future and their present. Beware of a nostalgia that seduces us into believing that it's possible to escape the losses and challenges of the present by restoring a comfortable and familiar past. If escape is seen as possible, then collective action for change becomes unnecessary. It becomes impossible. Returning to that movement to restore traditional gender roles, the problems its proponents blame on our liberation, or our sort of liberation, from those roles, those problems are real. They didn't make that stuff up. A lot of young people are living them and struggling to find solutions. Leaders of this restorative movement, who I cynically note are mostly white, straight men, vocally blame liberation itself for women being exhausted because they try to have it all and can't, for being condemned to struggle financially and emotionally because men no longer have to protect and support their families, having to parent alone because we've made divorce too easy. Give me a break. The real problem is our uber-capitalistic system with an almost non-existent social safety net that can't even mandate a living wage or paid parental leave or childcare, an entrenched system where most women can't have it all because if one parent in a mixed-sex relationship has to stay home, it's usually not the man who's making more money and who will most suffer career consequences for taking vacations and personal leave for a sick kid or taking elderly parents to medical appointments. Giving people no choice but to restore the gender roles of the 1950 American white middle class deliberately does not address the real problems. It does distract people from demanding that corporate America, institutions, and governments step up and work together for systemic change. Thank you. For systemic change to support all families. Likewise, the rush to restore a past normalcy unsuited to a fundamentally altered present can be dangerous in itself, as well as distracting us from the real issues. A letter published recently in my favorite advice column, written by Carolyn Hacks in the Washington Post, made me wonder whether to laugh or cry, though my first reaction was to cringe. A woman wrote that she and her husband are torn over his mother, who insists on living a very strange life. It seems that mother-in-law has become reclusive, mostly in the last 3 years. Oh, she does go to the grocery store and to the hair salon, but she mostly refuses visitors. She won't attend family functions and sometimes insists on speaking with her family through a window. She's appalled that people have resumed going about their business without masks, and she's 86 years old. The writer asked, "Do you think she needs an intervention?" Ms. Hacks listed all the reasons why the mother-in-law clearly did not need an intervention, that her pandemic strategies might be why, she's almost 90, and most significantly added, she's not wrong about the masks. Since they didn't stop being helpful, generally speaking, we just collectively declared them more annoying than they're worth to us now, and left the medically vulnerable to fend for themselves. The COVID pandemic has put a glaring spotlight on our national obsession with individual liberty over the common good. And hundreds of thousands of people have died as a result, and deaths continue to mount, especially among the elderly. For the first few months, you might remember, the national conversation addressed precautionary measures in terms of herd immunity, stopping the spread and protecting the community. Then came the major political and cultural backlash, which seems to have eventually won the day. Since then, nearly everyone, it seems, the CDC, government and institutional leaders, medical experts, the media, now pretend that the pandemic's over and we can all return to normal. When there are dangerous surges, as there are currently in much of the country, the advice, if you choose to seek it out, is this: make your own individual risk assessment based on your own risk factors and your personal risk tolerance. Except possibly for Carolyn Hacks, no one seems to be acknowledging our collective decision to leave the vulnerable to fend for themselves, even though it means they may have to fend by themselves. It's but the latest iteration of the deeply entrenched American worship of personal freedom. Now, we can choose to name that and work together to address it, or we can let it remain the elephant in the room and choose the easier route of restoring a semblance of normalcy, but not for everyone. You may say I'm a dreamer, but imagine with me, if you will, what the foreseeable future of Unitarian Universalism might look like. Now, right now, we're in the midst of engaging our past, the lessons learned, the lessons never learned, the lessons learned and forgotten. And we're being called as a vital liberal religion with a living tradition to respond to challenges we could not have imagined a mere 10 years ago. Not with a nostalgia that strives to restore the past Unitarian Universalism that we've known and loved, but sometimes can't pronounce. But with a reflective nostalgia that engenders a realistic and critical view of what has been. A nostalgia that adapts the most loving and enlightened and inclusive aspect of what's gone before to carry us beyond the present and into an uncommonly mysterious future. When I first became a UU, soon after I joined All Souls in 1990, I joined the Racial Justice Committee. And almost 10 years later, I went to seminary where a focus had been established on anti-racism, anti-oppression, multiculturalism as a foundational value of our religion, to which we were expected and required to hold ourselves accountable. Now, in 2023, as I've continued to be engaged with this work, I can assure you that it looks very different than it did then. It wasn't easy to widen and fundamentally change my anti-racism perspective after I thought I already knew it all, more than once. And I'm excited to be part of Unitarian Universalism's commitment to this work of living into our values, even as I know it will never be easy. But easy is not one of our principles. Speaking of which, you may already be aware that something big has been happening with our principles, which are listed in Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. This is the foundation for all of the work of the UUA and its member congregations and covenanted communities. It's the covenant they pledge themselves to when they become members of the UUA. And we're required as congregations, as the association, to review this article, therefore our principles and resources, every 15 years. But no major revisions have happened since 1985, nearly 40 years ago. The world that calls us to respond to its needs looks very different in 2023 than it did in 1985. So our General Assembly set up a commission to review Article 2. It's been active throughout 2022 with focus groups and surveys and an open series of Zoom discussions with UUs from all over the country and beyond. Now, after much thoughtful discussion and debate, the commission is reviewing and revising and will present the final proposal for an initial vote at General Assembly in Pittsburgh this coming June, with a final vote the following year. And maybe some of you have been engaged in these discussions. I believe this to be a process that honors our tradition of ongoing reflection and change. It calls us to respond not with a sense of nostalgia that yearns to restore the past as the best and only truth and tradition. Rather, it calls us to live into the Unitarian Universalism of the future, one that holds us all in times of great need and ethical, moral, and spiritual crises. In my hopes for our living, creedless tradition where beliefs aren't set in stone, as well as my hopes for this struggling country and its divided yet profoundly interdependent people, I return to the words of Audre Lorde. We do not have to romanticize our past in order to be aware of how it seeds our present. We do not have to suffer the waste of an amnesia that robs us of the lessons of the past, rather than permits us to read them with pride, as well as deep understanding. May it be so. Will you sing with me? Our work here today is at an end, and our work has just begun. The work of holding one another and this community in love. The work of trusting that we are on the right path. The work of believing that what connects us is stronger than what separates us. The work of engaging in that which makes us whole. The work of deeper understanding and commitment. The work of letting go of that which does not serve us. The work of radical inclusion. The work of collective liberation. The work of this beloved community. A beloved community of which we are all a part. A place where we are welcomed, respected, valued, cherished. A place where we belong. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be.